Now, going history, going back, am I correct in my memory that originally there were gasoline versions of Apteras?
There was gasoline versions of Apteras. The first kind of ethos of what we were trying to do was to make just the most efficient vehicle possible, and electric drivetrains didn't seem to be possible at all. So yeah, the first vehicle was single cylinder diesel driven vehicle.
Kind of like Alio did, where you were just going for the most miles per fill commuter car.
Yes, mile per gallon equivalent didn't exist. So so we had to prove how far we could go on just a gallon of gas, because nobody knew what an electric equivalency was. That we literally put 2 gallons of diesel in a tank, and we drove as far as we could drive out on the flat part of the freeway as you head out to the desert here. And we got 430 miles per gallon in that first vehicle, and we thought that was a really impressive number. So we went back to the investors and said, our first prototype runs really well. It proves our aerodynamic theories. It proves our rolling resistance theories. It proves that this shape can surround 2 people comfortably and can get really good fuel economy. So how do we take the next step? And then we raised more money. And the next step was, gasoline in general is not that efficient. If you can only get 25% of the energy out of the fuel you use, that's already starting with a negative. So we need to go to electric. How do we make this an electric vehicle? And that's when the challenges really started.
So was the hybrid in the middle of that, or was that when you realized that there was a range limitation on the electric?
The hybrid was, this was in the early days of the Prius. So,
yeah, it was. I had a Prius at the time.
The hybrid was really because, it seemed like a very logical solution to battery energy densities not being that great. So because the energy density sucked so bad on the first lithium batteries, it was like, well, we could have a, 90 to 150 mile range car, or we could have something that's a hybrid and could, have range as far as you wanted to go. And it was really just because, hybrid propulsion had just kind of gotten a footing with the Prius, and it seemed a great solution to the limitations on battery technology at the time. So we had planned that hybrid to be an alternative to the all-electric vehicles.
Cool.
And the hybrid was still a 150 mile per gallon alternative. So it was a really trick system that got you really great fuel economy.
Yeah, wow, 150. Jeez.
You mentioned that this time it was going to have a 100 kilowatt hour battery. So I was curious if what would it take to join the supercharger network? Like we've heard that Elon says that is open, and would you also put CCS on it if that were something that you did?
Yeah, CCS is planned. The supercharger network is a whole different ball of wax for sure. Those type of strategic alliances, probably come after we have more footing and become, more tangible as a company. But yeah, it would be. We're going to operate at very comparable voltage ranges to the Teslas, so there's no reason why we couldn't use that network to. It could get on a super network. You could add 1,000 miles of range to your battery pack in about an hour, so that would be fun. You could take really long road trips and charge really, really quickly at that point. So, one of the great things about having a vehicle that only uses 100 watt hours per mile at highway speeds is it changes the equation on how you charge it.
Yeah, it's a third of what I get right now.
Yeah, with just a regular plug from your wall, that you would use to charge your cell phone, this plug will get you 13 miles an hour. So
one.
So was that an official Aptera plug? Was that a?
It was Gen 1.
That's the Aptera standard.
Yes.
That's a glue gun.
But 13 miles an hour off of a small plug like that, and you can quadruple that off of any 220 line. If you can get 220 up to 50 amps, then you're really cranking juice in the vehicle. There's no situation.
Didn't I read on your website if the car is parked in the sun, the solar panels will give you X miles a day?
Yeah, so the solar advantage is a whole different equation. And we had solar on the original Aptera, but it was really just to keep the car cool on hot days. So we'd use it to run the climate control on hot days. And we cycle the air, yeah. So what it did was it allowed us to keep our air conditioning compressor smaller. Because on a hot day, when you get into a hot car, you have to crank up the AC really high to cool your car down because it's so dang hot in there. So if you could keep the car at ambient, even on a 100-degree day, you don't have to cool down the car nearly as much. You can have a lot smaller AC compressor, which lowers our weight, which makes us more efficient, all those things. So, but now that solar is, 3 times almost as efficient as it was back when we first started Aptera. So yeah, the solar complement that we have on the vehicle now, it provides about 700 watts of power. And in really sunny climates, you can get 44 miles a day of solar charge to the car. So if you're in LA in peak summer, you can add 44 miles of range just by parking outside when you go to work, which we think is really cool. Most people in the US, the average commute is 29 miles a day. So if you can get anywhere north of 30, you don't ever have to plug in again. So that's why we call it a never charge, because for a lot of people, for the majority of drivers in America and Europe, you would never have to charge again. You would just drive and drive and drive. So.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and I'm sharing the Aptera website here, and there is a map here you have on the website talking about the different zones and where you live and whatever. And so, like, I did it for me here. Chicago was clearly in the yellow. The yellow is zone 4. And I drive about 30 miles a day, maybe let's say 35. And so I would maybe have to plug in 4 times. But even that, I doubt that I would even have to do that. But even so, I have 120, charger in the garage. So whoop-de-doo, big deal. I'm plugging in.
Yeah, to be able to plug into an extension cord is a a big difference for people thinking about installing a $1,200 or $1,500 charger in their garage. It also really opens up the charging capabilities where these drive-on chargers or these contactable chargers, they don't have to pull 50 kilowatts to keep the Aptera charged. They only have to pull 1 kilowatt. So you can imagine driving over something that has a couple of small contactors on it, and it just touches the bottom of the Aptera and it charges your vehicle for you. We can do that because you really only need, even 500 watts overnight would add, 56 miles of range to your Aptera. That's super low current. It's super easy to implement. It's just a totally different ball of wax when you think about how you relate to your car. So.